hearing the sounds of laughter and talk as you reach the door and push it open. You sit down and join the game. It's a cheap buy-in, and not many of the other players are very good. The lady fiddling with dice gets good cards, but has no real strategy. The man to your right seems to just hold on to the highest cards he has, regardless of suit or any consideration of matches. The man in gray across from you, though, he's good. He already had the largest pile of coins when you bought in, and while your winnings grow quickly, you can't quite catch him. One by one, the other players leave the table, sometimes with pique or with wry humor, leaving their winnings with you or the man in gray. Finally, it's just you and the man in gray. He looks at you, full of humor, and winks. Last hand? He deals, you draw, and look at your hand. It's good. It's great. The best hand, in fact. A royal straight flush. Spades. Aces high. But the man in gray pushes forward his whole pile. You're not sure exactly how much it is, but it's more than you've got. You can't match that. The man in gray stops you. Now, if you like, I'll let you wager your word. I know you'll be good for it. Just promise you'll pay the debt, however I ask. Yep. 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. All spades. The man in gray smiles. All right, then. I'll call.
Well, your luck wasn't so good, was it? That's quite the hand, but not for the game we're playing. I'm afraid you owe me. Your life, sure, but more than that, your labor. You see, this land is built on stories. It's one big story, this country, woven of many small ones. Few of the small ones are strictly true, and the big story is mostly a lie. All the stories and songs and myths and legends start somewhere, with a seed. As they're told and retold and passed around, they grow and change to become the stories we know. To pay your debt to me, you'll be carrying stories, finding the seeds first and then spreading them, telling them onwards so they can begin gaining strength. This is no light task. Stories are heavy. Most of the stories you'll find will be small seeds. They might be true, but they'll grow wild and unbelievable with the telling. The more important stories are the true ones, the ones people will tell you about their own lives. Those often get lost in the weaves of the big story. The more true stories you can find and tell, the more you can weave that truth into the big story. Tarnish it a bit perhaps, but isn't a dingy and battered truth better than a shining lie? Now, go ahead. You tell me a story. I'll trade you some information about your task. I'll strip away your flesh to make the journey easier, but still you'll feel pain. Hunger, weariness, thirst, and despair. They're all part of stories, a part not often told. And death, yes, but don't worry. As long as your task remains, you'll come back. Travel? That's your job. Wander from place to place, gather those stories and spread them. People get bored hearing the same stories over and over. But an old cliché in one state might be a rip-roaring new yarn in another. It's just luck. Funny how bad luck seems to follow the folks who already have problems aplenty. Well, try your luck out there in this country. See how the dice treat you. It's not all bad. You'll have to work hard, but I'll give you the gift for seeing the true shapes of people. Not many who can do that. Your deepest desires? Your greatest wish? Heaven? Big Rock Candy Mountain? El Dorado? The Promised Land? That place just over the ridge where they all say that the water tastes just like the sweetest wine? Well, I don't know where that is. It's supposed to be somewhere in this country. Ask the people you meet. They're all searching for the same thing. You'll sometimes have to make choices about what kind of story you're finding. Is it a love story or a tragedy? Don't gather too many of one kind, though. This grand story needs variety. Go on your way, seeker. Maybe we'll meet again, or maybe not. Either way, it'll be an experience. I'm jealous in some ways. I hope you find what you're looking for.
This bungalow is being ransacked. There's furniture piled in the front yard, ammunition heaped under the mailbox, and a crowd of clean-cut men ripping apart a car in the driveway. The two heavily armed, mud-caked women leaning over the porch railing share the same bored grin. One shouts at you. You are about to hand her a smoke when those men draw pistols and shove you hard into the dirt. You know these girls? They demand. Once they've dumped your bag out into the road, they decide you're harmless. If you were selling booze too, you'd have a lot more cash, sneers one. On the porch behind him,
storms o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. This will be my tale, my vagrant
Off the road and into the woods, you can't help but come across this package by the old tree tied to a sturdy stick. The cloth wrapping conceals, though not particularly well, something large and softly unsettled. Little eyes blink back at you from inside the bundle. The shape gives a start.
Please don't tell my pa that I'm in here.
It says in a small voice.
Pa doesn't want to live with us anymore, but I want to go with him. Don't tell him, please. I'm hiding.
You tell the boy you'll keep his secret. You don't see his father anywhere. You don't see another soul for miles. Come every year, you know. The old man is sitting at the edge of a rotting old pier, crooked legs dangling over the... They seem to wait for something together, fidgeting and rubbing against one another. And when they fly off, they fly together. These two, these same two, have been coming here ever since I was a boy, the old man says. He watches them fly away until their bodies are dots vanishing into the low sun. The woman walks the small town square with the poise of Betty Davis, the confident stride and inimitable mannerisms elevating the sidewalk into a plush Hollywood carpet, and wrapped around her neck, a yellow velvet ribbon, bright as an ocean sunrise. You question a well-dressed man parked outside an oyster house. Prudish woman. I took her on a fine date, and she didn't remove so much as a ribbon. Excuse me, can you step back from the coupe? That's the spirit. You decide to seek a second opinion. You talk with a waitress smoking outside a diner. Something funny about her. Just showed up one day. Doesn't work, doesn't live anywhere as far as I know. Just around. Myself, I'd love to know who made all her beautiful clothes. You ask the woman if you may join her at a public bench.
You may. Lovely outside, isn't it?
Her eyes are a beautiful shade of brown. Beneath the yellow ribbon, a thick, fibrous scar wraps around her throat.
Weather like this, it reminds me of Paris.
You can see storm clouds on the horizon, and you don't relish the thought of being caught wandering this rocky seaside road in the rain. Fortunately, You find the lighthouse door open, with a daunting staircase before you. At the top of an ornate wrought iron spiral, you're breathless and feeling the strain on your knees. Rain already batters the walls outside. You can only knock on a heavy wooden door leading into the upper level. Muffled voices and light seep in beneath the door. "Looks like we got a visitor." Sounds like a man's voice, deep and rough.
Well, behave yourself. I'll open the door.
Another man, this one with a higher, more sonorous voice. "I always behave myself." He feigns indignation, but his tone betrays affection instead. After a moment, the door unlatches from the inside and opens. The man before you is tall and muscular, with a hint of a paunch beneath his wide chest. The heavy iron knob on the door looks nearly dainty in his huge hand.
Didn't want to be out in this rain, did you? Come in.
Despite the rough exterior, this room looks like a well-appointed parlor. There's a rug on the well-trod wooden floor and an enormously plush couch. And sat upon it is a stocky fellow grinning through a great hazel-colored beard. "Tea?" he offers, hoisting a teapot.
A few years.
The tall one sits on the sofa, wrapping his arm casually around the other lighthouse keeper. "5, says the smaller, but by no means small, man.
That long? Time flies. We traveled together before that. You must have some good stories from the road, huh?
You wake up the next morning on their old sofa, still warm from an excess of tea. And cakes? There might have been little cakes. Prodigious snoring rumbles in from the floor above you, and you quietly take your leave. This city is like no other you've been to. Crooked streets splay out in a maze of unable to afford rescue, you keep walking. The asphalt turns to crooked cobblestones that threaten to wrench your ankle out of place. Was this always a moonless night? The stars multiply, each one looking like a pinprick through which light is exiting the terrestrial world. It's hard finding your way through in pitch darkness. You go by touch and sound, feeling that you quiet yourself, suddenly fearful. The clear sky tells you it's not thunder, but cannon fire. The city comes alive with fires and shouting. You find yourself trampled by a mob of men in thick brown coats, a phalanx of bayonets advancing up the street. When you come to, there's no sign of the commotion, the war that you were just caught in. The comically shrill honk of a Model A running up the road startles you, and you crawl toward the sidewalk. Above, the sky is a sharp, cold, cloudless blue. A dusty truck and a man on horseback pull up next to one another in front of the grocer. Suddenly, the driver and the rider, two wiry old men with identical haircuts, start shrieking at one another. The man with the truck leaps into the street. "Brother!" he shouts. The one on the horse tumbles out of his saddle. "Brother!" he screams. They embrace in the road. 30 years, hollers the driver. The rider, tears streaming down over his face, corrects him. "No, 32! Everyone here is watching these two older men cry and hug one another in the middle of the long-lost brothers pose in front of traffic, cry snot pouring out of their noses. As angry passer-by wave you out of the road, each brother presses a coin into your hand. When the traffic disperses, you realize they overpaid you quite a shocking amount. As you walk along the river near an unfinished bridge, a man with a tool belt catches sight of you. "Hey, over there," he calls out. "You look like you could use a quick way to get some hard-earned money." Hard-earned is right. The bridge hangs high over a perilous drop. "Great!" he exclaims. You find yourself up high, looking over the rushing river that crashes around the foundation of the bridge. As you work side by side, the man mentions, "You can see thunderbirds up here if you know how to look." You ask him to explain. "Practice your peripheral vision, if you dare. Last thing you need up here is for them to see you seeing them and come swooping at you," he said. You only see the clouds thicken.
Hey there, stranger. You're welcome to enjoy this fire with me. If you're respectful, that is. This here is my spot, and I ain't inclined to share it with any bad characters. You can call me Quinn. These here are my venturing companions. Cass is the big un, and the one with the spots is Flip. I usually beat my way on the rails, but the road news said this town was fat, and the weather was fine. So I'm taking in the sights and seeing what I can drum up. You got any stories that are a little sad? Shoot, I ain't teared up. Just got something in my eyes, all. Sad. Oh, so you think just 'cause I'm young, I gotta be sad, crying after my mama every night. I don't need you looking after me, so if you're offering, don't. And I thought I told you to be respectful. What you really ought to be asking yourself is if you want to keep enjoying my spot or not. Hey, tell me one of those I usually like the scary stuff, but your story... Well, I don't know a whole lot about the past, but they say there's an Injun grave round these parts. Say it's haunted and full up with angry spirits. I used to love hearing stories of cowboys and Injuns fighting it up. Would swap tales with the youngins. But, well, I suppose if someone shot me, I'd be pretty vengeful too. I want to hear one of them venturing tales. Got any? Well, that was something. You spin a good yarn. Authority, bosses and such. I ain't nobody's little Angelina, if that's what you're asking. I take care of myself and my dogs. I don't need no jocker looking out for me, so if you're offering, don't. Shoot, I thought I told you to be respectful. You want to keep enjoying my spot? Hey, tell me a funny story. You seem like you still got a sense of humor. What's the use in telling sweet, happy tales if in them make you snooze? My family. There ain't no way I'm gonna start jaw-flapping about those bastards. Judases, the lot of 'em. 'Nuff said. I'm in the mood for something real funny-like. Not sure I quite follow. Freedom. Well... Teacher used to talk about freedom like America was eat up with it, but the tramping kind seems to be just about the only real freedom still in supply. Ain't no freedom from an empty stomach or bad weather, unless you're rich. Aw, heck, the night's over already. I sure enjoyed talking to you, but I gotta get on. I think I'll see what's happening up the road this way. The tramping life suits me just fine. Every day is a venture. With things being so depressed, folks walk around like it's the end of everything good. But it ain't. Plenty nice things to see if you know where to look.
Clouds roll together to fill the sky. The lightning is so strong that it seems to open a path. The thunder is so immense that the ground trembles. Your lips and hands tingle from the electric charge that fills the air until the dancing lightning passes on over the hills. The engines belch black smoke as the ferry churns gray water into froth. A broad-shouldered figure,
I wish you didn't have to go,
she says.
There's got to be work on some of those buildings going up.
His thumb skates over her pulse point.
I checked every day for a week. There ain't. I'll be back, though. Got your picture in my wallet, don't I? It's not forever.
Her words are split by a sob.
Might as well be. Our parents didn't come to New York for this.
She leans against him, the wind tousling her hair. He pulls her to his chest.
I'm leaving because I gotta go. If there...
My twin brother Paul and I always got into trouble, but we were good. We didn't do nothing to anybody till we left. Then we hurt a lot of people. Me, more so than Paul, because he didn't make it through. The march I was on, the bonus army, it's less a bonus and more an acknowledgement of what I've had to suffer. Civilians will never understand. Know any good jokes? I'm not so good at telling them anymore. That can't be true. That sounds like a Navy tale. Freedom is getting paid what you deserve, and getting enough to get by. Freedom is the ability to be free of pain. So anyway, tell me a funny story? You seem like you know a few good ones. Wish I could tell that one to my sister. Travel. Well, this walk feels like a little bit of freedom now and again. The flowers along the road make for fine company. Do you know any happy stories? Hopeful? For a moment there, just a moment, I felt better about it all too. My family, they were good to me, Ma and Pa, and to Paul, and to my sister Jessie. Some days I wish I could find Jessie again and have her help me. But she always liked Paul best. So, you must have seen some interesting stuff on the road. Anything exciting? I don't really scare at that stuff anymore. Sorry. The past doesn't even feel like it happened. It feels like it's happening in every moment, in every slumber. When your memories come back to you, do they clutch at you? At your heart? So anyway, tell me a funny story? You seem like you know a few good ones. Oh, come on. That doesn't sound real. Authority? The law? Well, I had a thought once, in the trenches. You and I, all of us, have the right to the pursuit of happiness. Can't say I've held the Declaration myself, but does it say anything about having a right to achieve happiness? Here's the sun. I've got to go. I'm headed up the road this way. Will our paths cross? Days come and go and the terrors return. They'll never be able to pay back what they owe me, but I'll always keep at 'em. What about you? Is there something somebody owes you?
The edge of summer has turned the ocean choppy and misanthropic, and the skies miserably gray. The boardwalk prophetess lured you into her tent with a promise to read a fortune for free. Seems like business has slowed to a crawl already. Before you lie the instruments of her profession. There's tarot cards, Rider-Waite, but also Marseille for traditionalists, rosary beads and costume jewelry, and of course, the centerpiece, a great glass globe. With practiced theatricality, she goes directly for the crystal ball, letting her eyes unfocus as though she can see a great distance into it. She brings up names, places, asks if you've known someone called John, if you have a relative in Newark. You deflect her cold reading, What could she possibly know of your life? Her frustration with you mounts. When she abruptly stops talking, you think she's simply given up. But no. Your eyes, she says, her voice suddenly drained of the bassy drama that was her stock in trade. You've met him. You've seen him, too. You carry him with you. The words that come out of your mouth are not your own. They seem unwilling or unable to form properly out of a human throat. They're more like snarls, warning noises of a vicious animal. The glass globe shatters. Your vision is hazy, and your body is not your own. You came far to get away from me, the voice lodged inside you says, but this one has a way of wandering. The fortune teller has collapsed, cowering. Consider your debt to me repaid. When you come to your senses, you're lying face down on the rug.
First, Ma and Pa wanted me and Paul on the front lines. They wanted someone to be proud of, and I did as they asked. Then the government wanted me to take an IOU, and I did. When there were no more jobs, I, along with thousands of others like me, went and asked Hoover to pay up. General MacArthur was so scared of us, he brought in goddamn tanks to keep us from tearing apart DC. So anyway, tell me a funny story? You seem like you know a few good ones. You know, the government told us to keep our chins up too, but I didn't believe them either. My family won't look at me anymore. They only see Paul. I cannot put them through that every day just for my sake. But anyway, do you know any good sad stories? True ones? Well, maybe you should tell my story to Hoover. I think you might put a crack in his heart. Love? All the connections, which is what love is, isn't it? Drowned in the mud in no man's land with Paul. But love comes in so many forms. I love now the ability to walk more dearly than ever. I love more deeply the sun and the earth. Tell me a happy story. Something to make the world seem kind. For a moment there, just a moment, I felt better about it all too. The past? I wish. Know any good jokes? Oh, come on. Home? Everything has one. I don't really tell this. Cirsium vulgare, they're called. Common weeds, but I love the little scratchy flowers, and I feel a little disappointed yanking out their roots. They never hurt anyone. Know any good jokes? I'm not so good at telling them anymore. Where are you headed? Back to the road? Hope your travels are easy enough, huh? Oh, I should be leaving soon, too. The road takes me this way next. Where's it taking you? I wish there was a road I could take home. It's something I think the road is helping me to understand.
The mailman's uniform is dated and worn. He sits on the edge of the road, head in hands. He looks up as you approach. "Can you help?" "Car clipped me. I think my legs... Well, I'd appreciate it if you could deliver this for me." He holds out a brown envelope. The letter's addressed to a James Gibson Sr., 120 J Street, but the city stymies you. The blocks run straight from I to K. You stop a man for directions, but he shakes his head and laughs. "Someone's playing a joke on you. There's no J Street. Over here." A woman in a brown coat overheard your question. She steers you down an alley. As you round the corner, the world changes. J Street is a place out of time, like the city forgot an entire street a century ago and carried on around it, oblivious. Even the noise and bustle of D.C. can't penetrate this little pocket. The man who answers is ancient and stooped. He peers at the letter. "I think it's from my son. I don't see so well anymore. Will you read it to me?" You tear the letter open. It isn't good news. He fights it, but his face crumbles. Tears roll down his cheeks. "It's better to know. I've been waiting a long time for this." His shaking hand takes the letter. "Thank you for telling me."
Sorry, friend, but I gotta ask you not to get no closer unless I can see your hands at all times. Look too clean to be one of us. But you don't look like the company sent you neither. All right, come and share my fire spell, but don't linger. These hills is full of ears. Don't think just 'cause you can't see no one that you're safe. And I'll give you cornbread, but don't be so sure of me neither. I need a laugh. Know any good jokes? You are a pretty funny one, you know that? Travel? Well, next time you take a train, take a peek on up at its beating heart. It's black breath. That's just what a mining man looks like inside him. Coal dust, smoke, and fire. See anything exciting out there on the road? Mostly I just seen dogs. That's supposed to be scary? Well, all right. Trust. Can I trust you? If I asked you how many widows were made when the number 9 fell in, would you know? What year it was when they walked Samuels and his boys down to Big Sandy and done 'em like criminals? You heard the word of Mother Jones? If you can't answer these, I can't say much. Got any funny stories? Must have a couple. Come on, that's all made up. What's freedom? When the community decides what it's worth? Setting the value of things together? You mean, when you don't answer to nobody? Just ain't possible, my friend. Anyway, I need something to laugh about. Got any funny ones? You got some wit, stranger. Death. Yeah. Little tin of morphine some of us carried down so as to die peaceful just in case. Some thought it better to die a sinner than to go with death's hand pulling the breath out of your body slow as he goes. I think God would have forgiven it. He would have had to. What do you think? I need a laugh. Know any good jokes? Stranger, miners tell me sadder stuff than that every day of the week. Family. Well, they took my big brother out of school to send him down the mines. He weren't bigger than 10 years old, but 25 cents and the right type of handshakes, and off he went to work. He's so big in my memory, but he must have been such a small feller, come to think. Morning. I gotta get going. Headed up that way. Won't be specific, for my safety and yours. You want to find me? Then do it. Talk again about these things. Coal ain't got no country. No worker neither. Worker ain't Virginian, ain't Christian, white, colored, Irish, Polish, nothing. A worker is a worker. And we all gotta work. If you're one of them, if you think I sound red, you best come out and say so. Get it over with.